Welcome to the final part of our journey exploring existentialism and the meaning of life. I'm Shamim Hossein, and over our previous videos we've examined freedom and authentic choice, relationships with others, and our confrontation with mortality, all through the lens of existentialist philosophy. Today, we bring these timeless philosophical insights into conversation with our unique historical moment. How do existentialist ideas apply to life in our digital age? What new challenges to authenticity and meaning arise in a world of social media, artificial intelligence, and ecological crisis? Let me share a scene that captures our modern condition. Recently, I was at a concert, a beautiful live performance, and noticed something striking. All around me, people were watching the performance not directly, but through their phone screens as they recorded it. They were simultaneously present and absent, physically there but experiencing the moment through technology, perhaps already imagining how others would view their recording later. This is just one example of the unique existential challenges we face today. While existentialism emerged in a different era, I believe its emphasis on authenticity, freedom, and meaning-making has never been more relevant than in our hyperconnected yet often disconnected world. One of the defining features of our age is the ability to craft and present digital versions of ourselves. Social media platforms invite us to create profiles, share carefully selected moments, and curate how others see us. This raises profound existential questions about authenticity and identity. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote about bad faith, the self-deception where we either deny our freedom or deny our facticity, our concrete situation and limitations. Today's social media landscape creates new possibilities for bad faith. Think about how we often present idealized versions of ourselves online, highlighting achievements while hiding struggles, showing vacation highlights but not mundane Mondays. There's a tension between authenticity and performance that wasn't possible in quite the same way before. I'm reminded of my student Maya, who described feeling anxious whenever she wasn't documenting her experiences for social media. "Sometimes I feel like if I didn't post about it, it didn't really happen," she told me. "And I'm constantly thinking about how things will look to others rather than how they feel to me." This illustrates what the philosopher Guy Debord called the society of the spectacle, where direct experience is increasingly replaced by its representation. While Debord wrote before the internet age, his analysis anticipates our current condition where life can become a performance for an imagined audience. The existentialist challenge here isn't to abandon digital spaces entirely, but to approach them with awareness. Can we use these platforms as authentic expressions rather than performances of idealized selves? Can we resist the pull to live for likes and engagement rather than from our core values? Sartre would likely see our social media practices as a field where we exercise our freedom. We choose what to share and how to present ourselves. The existential task is to make these choices consciously rather than sleepwalking into patterns that disconnect us from authentic living. Another existential challenge of our age concerns our attention and how we use it. The attention economy is designed to capture and monetize our focus, creating what some have called the industrialization of distraction. Existentialists emphasize that freedom isn't just about making major life choices, but about how we direct our consciousness from moment to moment. Today, that freedom faces unprecedented challenges. Think about the last time you tried to read a challenging book or engage in deep thought, only to find your hand reflexively reaching for your phone. Or how a single notification can pull you out of a meaningful conversation or creative flow. The philosopher Simone Weil, whose work resonates with existentialist themes, wrote that attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. Where we place our attention is perhaps the most fundamental way we exercise our freedom and shape our experience. I think of my colleague Thomas, who realized he was spending hours daily on social media despite working on a book he deeply cared about. He didn't just need better time management. He needed to reclaim his attention itself. The apps on his phone were designed by some of the world's most brilliant minds specifically to capture and hold his focus. This points to a profound existential challenge. How do we maintain agency over our attention in an environment engineered to fragment and capture it? How do we create spaces for the kind of sustained focus that deeper meaning-making requires? The existentialist philosopher Gabriel Marcel distinguished between problem-solving and mystery-engaging modes of thought. Many of our digital tools excel at problem-solving but may actually hinder engagement with the mysteries that give life depth, questions of meaning, purpose, love, and death that can't be resolved through information alone. This isn't about rejecting technology, but about using it intentionally. As Marcel might ask, are our tools serving our deeper purposes, Or are we being shaped by our tools in ways that pull us away from what matters most? Existentialists have always recognized the tension between individual freedom and our need for connection with others. Our digital age transforms this relationship in complex ways. On one hand, technology enables unprecedented connection across distance. People find communities around shared interests or identities that might be impossible in their physical location. Someone with a rare condition can find support from others with similar experiences worldwide. Artists and thinkers can find their audience regardless of geography. On the other hand, these connections often lack the embodied quality that has characterized human relationship throughout our evolutionary history. Something different happens when we're physically present with others. Subtle cues of facial expression and body language, the chemistry of shared space. I think of my friend Elena, who maintained a vibrant online community during the pandemic lockdowns, connecting with fellow artists across the globe. "It saved me," she said. Yet when gatherings became possible again, she wept after her first in-person workshop. "I didn't realize how much I was missing until I felt it again. Being in a room with others, creating together." This isn't to romanticize pre-digital community, which had its own limitations and exclusions. Rather, it's to recognize that different forms of connection offer different qualities of presence. The existentialist Martin Buber, whose I-thou relationship we explored in Part 3, would likely ask whether genuine encounter, meeting another in their full humanity, is possible in digital spaces. Not as a yes/no question, but as an ongoing exploration of how technology both enables and constrains different forms of presence with others. This matters because meaning often emerges through our connections. As the existentialist psychiatrist Irvin Yalom observed, meaninglessness is often intertwined with disconnection from others, from projects larger than ourselves, from our own deeper values. The existential challenge is to use our technologies in ways that foster genuine connection rather than its simulation, to create digital spaces that support rather than substitute for embodied community, and to recognize when screens might be coming between us and the direct experience of others. Perhaps the most profound existential challenge of our time is living meaningfully amidst multiple overlapping crises: climate change, technological disruption, political polarization, and the lingering effects of a global pandemic, among others. These conditions create what philosophers call radical uncertainty. Not just risk that can be calculated, but foundational uncertainty about the future shape of our world. This uncertainty generates anxiety that can either paralyze us or awaken us to our responsibility. Existentialists like Kierkegaard recognized anxiety not just as a problem to solve, but as a signal that reveals something important about our condition. Anxiety arises precisely because we are free beings capable of making choices that matter, even when we cannot control all outcomes. I'm reminded of conversations with young people contemplating whether to have children given climate projections, or workers whose fields are being transformed by artificial intelligence. These aren't just practical problems, they're existential questions about how to live meaningfully under conditions of profound uncertainty. The existentialist Albert Camus, writing during World War II, faced similar questions about finding meaning amid crisis. His response wasn't optimism that denied reality, nor despair that surrendered to it, but a form of rebellion, choosing to create meaning through how we respond to our conditions, however challenging. When a reporter asked Camus what young people should do during those dark times, he replied, "In the midst of hate, I found there was, within me, an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was, within me, an invincible smile. It is in the midst of winter, I finally learned that there was in me an invincible summer." This points to what might be the essential existentialist insight for our age. That meaning isn't found in perfect conditions or certainty about outcomes, but in how we choose to respond to our circumstances, how we exercise our freedom within constraints, how we maintain our humanity in challenging times. We've traveled a long philosophical road together across these 5 videos, from fundamental existentialist ideas about freedom and authenticity, through relationships and mortality, to the unique challenges of finding meaning in our digital age. What emerges isn't a formula for meaning or a set of rules to follow, but an invitation to greater awareness of our freedom and responsibility, of the quality of our connections with others, of our finite time, and of how we direct our attention and agency in a complex world. The existentialist tradition reminds us that meaning isn't something we discover like buried treasure, but something we create through our choices and commitments, through how we use our freedom within the constraints of our situation. As we conclude this series, I invite you to carry these questions forward. Where in your life might you be fleeing freedom rather than embracing it? What would it mean to live more authentically in your relationships? How might awareness of mortality reshape your priorities? And how can you use the technologies of our age in ways that support rather than hinder meaningful living? Thank you for joining me on this philosophical journey. If you found value in these explorations, please like and share this video, and consider subscribing for future philosophical content. The comments section below is open for your reflections on how existentialist ideas have impacted your own search for meaning. Until next time, remember that in a universe that may not provide meaning for us, the meaning we create ourselves is all the more precious.